Arutperumjothi Thanipperum Karunai Arutperumjothi எல்லா உயிர்களும் எம்புற்று வாழ்க வள்ளல் மலரடி வாழ்க வாழ்க.
So, Tavam Thiruvalluvar puts it in a very concise manner. Utranoi thondral, uyir kurugan seyyamai, atre tavarthirku uru. So, it can be clearer than this, but in a pretty concise manner, if we know what everything is, right? So, tolerate on the difficulties. Utranoi thondral, uyir Kurugan Seyyamai, and not trouble any other lives. That is how Tavam is formed. Atre Tavarthirku Uru. So when I said this to my wife initially, the next minute she said, I never realized that I have been in Tavam all this time. Right? That is what I heard from her. So to my surprise, I never kind of questioned that and asked if that was a joke or if that was real. I just I was having fun at that time, and I just continue with that. But is it that kind of toleration we are talking about, or what are we really referring to in here? So let me go ahead and, oops, I think I clicked the wrong button. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one to further expand on it. So in 1993, Kevin Carter in Sudan was going through a famine at that point of time. It was going through this age of great hunger and all those things. So Kevin actually wanted to picturize the whole situation in a snapshot. So he was in the village areas in those parts of the world. And there was a moment, and this was a moment when he heard a child whimpering, a soft whimper. He was hidden actually in a bush, and he wanted to snap it frame by frame because he thought that was the perfect moment to tell to the world like how this particular situation was. This child actually has the forehead on the ground, the shoulder blades pointing up, and you can see the rib cages, the bones in the rib cages outward. And anybody who wants to see it at the first sight wants to go ahead and help this child, because the child is going towards a food truck where this UN comes and delivers food, because that was one of their main source of food too. Then, if you look a little bit back, then there is this plump vulture up there. It is so eager, and it's waiting for that child to fall. So Kevin actually was in back of the bush, hiding for 20 minutes quietly, so he didn't want to scare this vulture off. He got this image and shooed away this bird eventually. But the picture was also published in New York Times the same year, in New York Times. And after looking at the picture, the first question everybody asked was, what happened to the child? There wasn't really an answer for that, because he shot away the bird, but he didn't do anything to the child, and he walked off from that place. So that actually prompted outrage when people learned that there wasn't really an answer to the child, and the child wasn't picked up and carried to the feeding center. So in the subsequent versions, New York Times later went and reported that the child actually made it to the feeding center on its own. And months later, there was prizes and awards to this particular picture too, whatever the name of the award is. But the photographer actually told his friend that he was really sorry. He was really sorry that he didn't pick up the child. A few months later, actually, he took his life too, and with a note saying that I'm haunted by all the vivid memories of killings and sufferings of wounded children, and so on and so on in Sudan. So, but it did bring a very good point. It exposed the problem. It gave the visibility to the world that what Sudan was going through. So people started generating money and donating to that part of the world. And Sudan came to know, actually, lots of people didn't even know at that time. So it did bring good things too. So there's a connection between that and this. So compassion is the key for Suttha Sanmargam. Suttha Sanmargam is nothing but compassion. It's like a spider web. We can. It's all interconnected. We can take the outer circle and get back to the next circle, and in the end, in the middle, where everything gets joined, that will be compassion in there. So what we are going to see is how Perumal is going to say about ascetic practice. So remember, we're looking into ascetic practice, davam, the tolerance of it. Compassionate life is being compassion to other life's sole natural existence. So life nature is nothing but compassion. But due course of time, we have accumulated all these artificial characters in us, which is forming us and which is stopping us to do and to expose our natural stuff. So by showing this compassion to another living thing, grace can be achieved. And grace of God can only be attained through compassionate life discipline. And this is also what's called as path of knowledge and Sanmargam. Everything are one and the same. With compassionate life, intelligent and love develops. Without it, helping tendency disappears. And it actually leads to destruction. So let's look at this one. Compassionate discipline is the key for enlightenment during the lifetime. And then this is actually, everything is from Jivakarunyam, which Perumal has. And an important point here is people in family can ignore the 4 stages: serve, worship, yoga, knowledge, Sariyai, Kiriyai, Yogam, Jnanam, by disciplining them through compassion and reach immortality. Truth being said that the powerful sages, intellectual beings, yogis, will not be able to enter into the immortal home if they do not possess this key of compassionate discipline. So we can do everything. We can practice, try to be a yogi, jnani, try to get to that jnani stage, be very intelligent. But we cannot enter into the immortal home if we do not possess this key. And further he extends, you have to wander in there and return back, earn this key of compassion, and again, get in, try to get in. So this is the key for enlightenment too. Without compassionate discipline, all meditation, fasting, penance, ascetic practice, prayer will end up in vain. So it's not going to be of use anymore. And people who follow compassionate discipline in their life get things done effortlessly. They'll never be in danger due to their negligence as well, or if at all to their deeds or to the karma what they have accumulated. Things will be smooth in their life if they follow this compassion. So why are we talking about this one? So Perumal says about to get compassion, to be compassion, what you need to have is oneness, orumai. So we need to have orumai to get to this jivagarunyam. Orumai illai என்றால் ஜீவகாருண்யம் தோணாது. So what is this orumai which we are referring to in here? So there are two steps in which orumai can be defined. One is oneness exists automatically when intelligence and discipline rendezvous. So there are certain disciplines which we have to follow, and intelligence is we got to intelligently follow it, because there'll be times when you try to follow something, you might be driven away from it by your mind due to whatever reason it is, but that has to be brought on track by that intelligence. So where the intelligence and the discipline meets together, that's when oneness exists. The second one is, in other places, do not cause problems to others. So when we are with others, when we are not by ourselves, don't cause problem to others. And even if someone incite an issue, tolerate and hold patience. So basically here comes the tolerance and holding patience. And this is what Thiruvalluvar was leaning to, compassion or to oneness in there. So now you can see it's called quadrat demonstrata in French. Left hand side equals to right hand side. So this explains, this ties up both those together. So what we'll be going is that discipline, what the discipline is, and the tolerance for holding and holding patience at that time. Well, for instance, like I personally, when in a scenario where things are when things are not going accordingly to how I want it, or how I guess everybody is wanting, we normally do not like that, because we have our own comfort zone and we always want to be in that comfort zone. And if there is something which deviates from the comfort zone, we either show resistance or we try to cut off from it and not even listen to it, or say something against it. So when things like that happen, and even in a conversation like that, what we have to do is we have to actually listen, understand, and hold our patience, because that is the way of molding. That is the way of molding us. It is like a gold. When a gold for a gold to become a jewelry, that has to be going through the process of heating bashing, stretching, twisting, turning. So to make that jewelry, it has to go through all those process. So it is those process of molding us. Even sometimes I walk away, even if the conversation which I'm not liking, or which that was, I mean, before I used to, if someone says something, then I'll say 10 things after that. That is how I was before. But now it's not the case. Now I try to walk off, but those are the things which shouldn't happen. But instead, should listen like what is happening, tolerate, and go through all those things, because it is a tough thing to listen. Because we always have our own ideology, and we are not open to it. We are not open to any changes. So tolerance is a tough thing. It's not easy said. It comes through practice. And holding that patience is not easier either. So this is what oneness is about. So on a grand scheme of things, when Perumal says about compassion, oneness, when everything is followed, from the holistic point of view, when everything is done correctly, we would automatically think the next person is same as you. So that is the idea behind it. But these are all those steps to get in there. So let's get into the discipline as an ascetic practice. So we were talking about the tolerance and stuff. Let's look into how disciplines and intelligence. So with discipline, there's one good thing. Perumal says in Thiru, விரிந்த மனம் எனும் சிறிய விளையாட்டு பயலே. So manam, which is our mind, it's like a boy who is always mischievous. He just wanders around here and there. So he's that vilayattu payal. Virindu virindalayade. So just don't expand yourself. Think about this. We can't stop it. We try to think about something, and it just keeps on expanding. Our mind is it's maybe even more than the universe. That's the amount of thought which we are generating. It just keeps on expanding, one after the other. Virindu virindalayade meliyade vidayam புரிந்த நெறி புரிந்தவமே போகாதே பொறிவாய் புரையாதே விரையாதே புகுந்து மயங்காதே. So don't get back on those senses. Don't follow your senses. So we are talking about all those indriya olukam and karuna olukam in here. So senses for the sense organs, body organs, and also senses disciplines for the mind as well. So that's what's happening every time, and even every minute, some point. So the mind, even though physically we are here, mind actually tries to just expand it and just tags on to something and keeps tagging on with the next one. It's not able to be fixed in a point. So that is what's been explained in here. So to do that, purintavame, follow the discipline for the senses through ascetic practice. So if we follow that, we would be able to get to a place where this mind is and the senses are starting to listen. So it's a process through which it has to be gone through, but it's a slow process. It's not going to come in a fortnight, or it's not going to be very instant, but eventually it's going to come. So let's get into the hindrances for meditation. So for meditation, for us to be successful, there are going to be hindrances, obviously. Hindrances in our body, hindrances in our mind. Major two ones. So body, let's take a look about how Permanar says about body. The body is not to be taken lightly, because this life is given to us in our body. The only sole purpose of this life actually is to attain salvation. And we cannot get God's grace in any other body other than this human body. So this human body is of prime importance. And if we leave this opportunity, and there might not be another opportunity again, meaning that in our reborn or in our rebirth, that might be in a different form. Just don't remember those things, right? And there's a story about this. Like someone was asking, like, oh, how we know that there is a rebirth, but there is also a deep stuff on it. But if someone cannot remember what had happened last week or last month, or even like when someone was like 10 years old, or those what has happened, how we can talk about previous stuff, right? We're not even in that state yet, right? That's basically that simple answer to that one. But when looking more into the body, treat body like gold actually. உடம்பை பொன் போல பார்த்துக்கோங்க is what Perumal says. And Thirumalar actually also goes one step further here too. உடம்பை முன்னம் இழுக்கென்றிருந்தேன். I initially thought that the body was a disgrace to me. உடம்பினுள் உள்ளே உருப்பொருள் கண்டேன். Saw something, some ultimate reality in the body. உடம்பினுள்ளே உத்தமன் கோயில் கொண்டான் என்று உடம்பினை யான் இருந்து ஓம்புகின்றேன். So I realized that the ultimate supreme being is inside me, and I am started worshipping him, and I am taking care of my body as well after realizing that he is inside me. So that is what Thirumalar in Thirumandiram is referring to about body. But note that this body and mind are very well interconnected as well, right? If we have a strong body, then the mind will also be stronger. If we have like a strong mind, then the body will be also stronger as well. For instance, right? So let's say we have pain in knee or tooth or headache, a huge headache. So what happens at that point of time? So we won't really want to indulge in any other activities, even to our liking, if the pain is unbearable at the time, because the only thing what we really want to get rid of is the pain and nothing about it. And that's because that is only in our thought process in our body, because there is an injury in my body, and it causes pain. That is what is that's the only thing which we can think about. A pain can also cause depression eventually. Pain in stomach can cause depression too. So the body also follows the mind. If the mind thinks, let's say if the mind thinks of falling from a height, the body prepares for it. It prepares for it even before things happen. So we are traveling in a bus, and say for instance we are going to fall, right? Things get automatically happened. Things get automatically happened physically. So so you try to rest your arm somewhere, or you try to hold on to something else. So the preparation automatically happens there. Same thing with the mind. When we are in anger, when we are feared of something, when we are cheering on something, when we are anxious on something, the external signs are visible in our body. The body starts showing, our face, especially the index of the mind, start showing all this stuff outward very clearly. So this body and mind are interlinked onto each other, and if there is an issue with one, the other one is not going to function properly. It's going to have a tough time, both the body and the mind. So we have to make sure that that's where Pramana lays down all the discipline for the body and all the discipline for the senses, to see how we can overcome all these difficulties for every sense organ and practice those things so it's in an ideal condition. So we saw that grief in the mind weakens the body. One good example is also that pain is evident as long as the mind is connected, and this one we can easily say when we go to sleep. So when we go to sleep, we do not feel that pain at that point of time. We do not even feel anything. So what happens to the mind at that point of time? The mind is non-existent at that point of time. We're talking about deep sleep, because there are sleeps where sometimes we even have our small thoughts, and then those thoughts could turn to something else too, right? So we're talking about deep sleep in here, where you can't even say anything. Man, I didn't even know what happened at that time. I just closed my eyes and I realized it's morning already. That's the kind of sleep we are talking about, just the deep sleep, because sleep has also 4 phases, and that will be a different one. So during that deep sleep phase, the mind actually is nowhere. So what happens to the mind? It's like salt getting dissolved in the water. So the salt is inside the water, but we can't see it, but it is inside the water. And yeah, we can see the salt again back. We just have to heat it a little bit, and then again the salt comes back again. So that's like us waking up in the morning, and then boom, the first thing is all those things getting up into the mind, and keep the process going. So that is why Perumal says, when you wake up, just the first thing, I think I'm going ahead in here. The first thing what we have to do is nothing but think about God and do meditation. That is the first thing we got to do. The reason behind this is not for the mind to take over at that point of time. So that is the prime time. So the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or even seconds, we get the first thought in, it would be tough to control it. So that is the prime reason. And that is the next step, which is going to say after meditation, because what's he saying is just apply ash on your forehead up to the body, and then do the meditation after that, because we really don't want to give an opportunity for the mind to think. We will go in detail on the functions of mind, of what it can perform. So initially, without even getting any thought, we want to get into this process of not letting any thoughts coming in. That's why that morning and the first step is very important, because the first step, we let any thought come in. So that's what happens. We saw in the last slide, like it just traverses through, it just expands it one after the other. It just expands it so fast, and we won't be able to get it back. That will be the problem. So that is why we have to make sure it is controlled in the first time. Also, when we are when we are very happy, or the mind is taken away from the body, at that time the seat of the pain is not known, because we have taken the mind from the body, because the mind actually sits on that. Actually, the mind actually is sarbodhanam, it's what's called. It always wants to cling on something. It wants to cling on something, and it cannot function independently. So we try to try to stay. When we try to separate it, it always tries to go and cling on something. There is no other, no other way actually to stop this mind, but to put that mind and divert that mind's focus and to cling on the supreme being. That is the only way to control the mind, because it always is going to cling. That's the nature of the mind actually. So through practice, slowly we can bring it inward and make it divert that attention to the supreme. So that is the ultimate goal in there. But only a trained mind which utterly controls the body can inquire and meditate endlessly. So the mind has to be trained in a way so we can control the body and then inquire more about it. And that is how meditation can happen endlessly. Without that, we'll be just sitting in one place and thinking about something else. Okay. So now let's talk about body in here. So body, so when Perumal is talking about body, he refers to God's radiance. So in these four places, God's radiance are happening, so much. So this is the areas where we have to basically concentrate in here. So inner, agam is the soul. Agapuram is the jivan, life. Puram is the mind, and Purapuram is the sense organs. So even though God basically exists everywhere, these four areas is where his particular radiance is. So we got to basically concentrate and go over all these four areas and traverse through those paths. Agam, Agapuram, Puram, and Purapura. So now let's take a look at the body in here. And it's also said actually even by multiple siddhas that Andathil ullavayavum Pindathil ulladu. So Perumal says the same thing. So Andam is cosmos. Cosmos, whatever is in the cosmos is in the body as well. But he goes a step ahead. Pindathil adin melum ulladu. So body has more than that too. It's even more than the cosmos. It's more than what cosmos is. So this body can also be split into its own Andam and Pindam, which is the cosmos and the body. And the cosmos in our body. So now actually we know the outer cosmos and our body, and now we are just looking only into our body. And in our body, we are splitting that into two. One is our head. Our head is our cosmos area. That is called as the Andam. And the region from our neck below is our body. So that is our pindam. So in our body, we have our own cosmos and our own body. And Suttha Sanmarga Anubhavam is in the cosmos only, is in our Andam only. So Perumal says that in Uranadai as well. So now let's look into the cosmos a little bit. So Andathil Pindam, what is called as cosmos body. So cosmos body is nothing but our eyebrow center. So that is something in between our eyebrows, right in between our eyebrows. So we want to be very clear in that area. So that is why the snapshot in there shows a point in there and then arrow in there. So that's the eyebrow center. It's not the center of this eyebrow. It's not definitely the center of this eyebrow, but it is in the eyebrow center. And there are many songs which indicates why it is in the eyebrow center, because it's been referred to as uchikku kile ulnakku mel. So there are many songs which clearly tells why it is that particular place. But coming back, so our cosmos body is the eyebrow center, which is Andatil Pindam. So there is an Andatil Andam too. So the Andatil Andam is Brahmarandram, which is our skull, which is the top portion of our head. That's called as the Brahmarandram. Our skull portion. So in cosmos, which is in our in the body cosmos, we have a cosmos body, and then we have a cosmos of cosmos. So Andatil Pindam and Andatil Andam. So in here, we will be referring to this eyebrow center a lot in the future sessions as well. So in here, life exists in our body. Perumal says life exists in 5 places, in which 2 is very important. 1 is Jivatma, in the neck area, is where Jivatma is. And then there is another area which is called as Paramatma, where you can see right on the forehead and those area. So life exists in 2 places, major 2 places, Jivatma and Paramatma. And the Jivatma is a destructible one, but Paramatma is an indestructible one that cannot be destroyed. That is where our soul resides. So it gets more expanded to it, but this is on a high level on how the body is from the spiritual perspective, and how from Suttha Sanmarga perspective it's going to be useful for us. Okay, so from here in a verse in Gnanasariyai, Perumal says, Kandadellam anithiyame, ketadallam parude. So anithiyam is something which is not permanent. So kandadellam anithiyame is whatever we are seeing is not permanent. That's true. Whatever we are seeing is always changing. But is there something which is permanent? That's the question in here. Ketadallam parude. So whatever we have heard is nothing right. So whatever we have heard is basically wrong. Katradellam poye. Whatever we have learned is nothing but lie. We have learned nothing but lie in this world. Kalithadellam vine. This time which we are spending on our daily basis, whatever we are doing is actually a waste of time. Undadellam malame. Whatever we are eating is going as a waste. Utkondadellam kuraye. So whatever we are doing, the actions which we are performing is not leading to good deed or leading to something good. It's leading us on the bad side of things. So the actions, whatever we are hearing, however time we are spending, whatever we are hearing, whatever we are seeing, whatever we are learning, There's problem in all these aspects of it. And then further he says, Ulagiyalir iduvarayil unmai arindilire. People in the world, you haven't really learned that truth yet. Vindadanal yen ini neer. So at least now, Samarasa Sanmarga main neriyai. The key point in here. The true discipline, Samarasa Sanmargam's true discipline, main neriyai kadai pidithu. Just you have to observe the true discipline. மெய்ப்பொருள் நன்கு உணர்ந்து. So this மெய்ப்பொருள் is something which resides in us. We'll see in the later sessions like what that மெய்ப்பொருள் is about. So we have to feel that மெய்ப்பொருள். So மெய்ப்பொருள் நன்கு உணர்ந்து எண்டகு சிற்றம்பலத்தே எந்தை அருளடைமின் இரவாத வரம் பெறலாம் இன்புறலாமே. So once you feel the reality, once you feel something which is the nitya porul, then you will lead to a deathless life. That's what's been said in this verse. And it also says that whatever the sense organs are following, or whatever we are doing at this point of time is not the right thing to do. We are not following the right stuff, and that is the reason why we sit down in meditation. You can see automatically itches coming in our itches in our thighs, itches in the face areas, and all those things. All these new stuff, which new feelings. Not even though we say, "Oh, listen to me, I want to be in a calm area, I want to just focus on something," we can't focus it because the body is not listening, because all these senses are dragging us. Every sense is dragging us in its own direction. It's actually a pity on us that we are being dragged by all these senses, and we have something in the something which is hidden from us. It's like a treasure hunt. It's a treasure which is inside, and we are trying to get to the treasure, but we are being dragged by all these senses in different direction, and also this bodily senses, and on top of that, mind dragging us in a totally different spot, and it's actually working for the body now, not for us anymore, and listening to the body's pleasure, and continuing and working for the sense organs at this point of time, working for the mouth for its taste, working for the eye so it can enjoy, and working for hands what we really wanted to do. So it's totally it's totally working for the sense. So the sense and the mind are right now partnering with each other. It's not and it's the basic the idea behind that is how the nature is, so that we cannot see that reality. And what we are going to see in the next session, because it's getting also a little bit closer, and we had to have it's 6:53 EST, so we'll leave us some time for the question and answer session as well. So the next session we are going to see like how these senses, how we can start to work on these senses like bodily senses, and also the mind senses, and how we can control it slowly, and how we can tune those senses correctly so it can listen and it can be our friend rather than it driving us. And we will see how Perumal blasts his mind and what he tells about mind and stuff like that.